Fáilte, welcome to a week in the life of a Gaelic writer. This week I am thinking about criticism and feedback because you need that. As a writer you need it, as a publisher you need it, and as a literary culture, Gaelic needs that. Writing the book is all very well, publishing it, giving it a lovely cover, marketing it, getting people to buy it, but then you need to know, did those people really enjoy it, or does this book just stink and everybody thinks it's terrible? And feedback can be quite slow to come. You can probably predict that there will be a review of a new Gaelic fiction title in the Scotsman at some point, but it might be weeks or months after publication. Unlike the English publishing industry, where books are being read ahead of time by reviewers, so the review copies are going out before the publication date, and the opinions of those reviewers can be used in the marketing, and you're trying to get the reviews to hit the newsstands and the websites on the day of publication or just the following weekend, and probably most of the sales of that book will be in the first month after publication. That's not how Gaelic works. Gaelic is a much slower burn, book sales wise. Obviously the number of readers is small, and people are busy. People need time to read a book. They might just think this isn't the book for me. They've got all of English literature competing for their time, as well as Netflix and whatever else is distracting us from reading these days. And the other thing that's important to remember is, of course, you want, as a writer you want feedback from your readers, but they're not under any obligation to give you that feedback. They're just the end user of the product. And if that's all they want to be, that's fine. They don't have to venture an opinion. If they do, that's great. That's what we want. We want to hear opinion and we want to hear criticism, even if it's bad, because that helps us to write the next book. There is a new thing that has launched just recently, launched in the past couple of weeks, and I signed up for it this week. It's the Gaelic Book Council's new forum called Leibhlium, and you have to sign up. So long as you have a valid email address, you can sign up for it. And there are discussions, which I haven't contributed to yet, but I have been lurking around looking at what other people are saying. And people have been talking about, they've been asking, what are you reading at the moment? And suggesting titles for read-alongs so that people can read the same book at the same time and discuss it with each other. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, this is it. This is what we need. We need a place where people can share those opinions, because that's the whole point of reading. We don't just read to do something antisocial on our own, even though we probably do consume books privately, but we read to know we're not alone. If we share an opinion with someone, if we find that our opinions are reinforced by what somebody else thinks, that builds community. That's how we communicate with each other. So I have great hopes for Leibhlium, and I look forward to seeing what people think, not just of my books, but of other books, because I am a reader too. Writers are readers too, or at least they should be. I've also been doing my series Crimecan, which some of you may be watching. Every week I read a book and make a little video about it, a 4-minute video. I don't think of Crimecan as review as such. It is simply to present a little excerpt from the book, which is about a minute long, and then to say something in the other 3 minutes about the story. I've read some books for this series that I don't think are particularly good books. I think there are some problems with some of the stories. I'm trying not to go into that in too much detail in those videos. I don't think that's the place for them. And also I don't want to trample over anyone else's opinion, because everything is worth reading. There's nothing that you shouldn't feel able to tackle, and certainly you should read everything you can get your hands on in Gaelic. But again, I don't get much feedback on the Crimecan videos either. So out there's either nobody's interested, or there are a lot of people who are perhaps just busy, perhaps just lazy, but perhaps just a little bit hesitant about sticking their head on the chopping block and saying, this is what I thought of this book, or I didn't like that book, or, well, this person may be a supposedly great writer, but I thought this thing didn't even make sense. And all those opinions are valid, and any writer worth their salt will, don't be rude, obviously, but any writer worth their salt will welcome criticism that is offered candidly, I think. It's the last piece in a jigsaw. You can't have a literary culture without there being a culture of criticism that is part of that. It's one of the questions that Mark Ringe asked me last week when I was launching my new book at I Write. And he said, maybe people don't want to say unkind things. I certainly don't want to say unkind things about any writer, because all of us are pioneers, and it takes a certain amount of courage to put what you write out there. Of course, by the time it is published, it has been through a process where lots of other people have read it. Your editor has read it, and your publisher has read it, and maybe other friends of yours or writer colleagues have read it along the way. But then there's a link, that the missing link in the cycle at the moment, I think, is criticism. So I hope that people will be willing to talk about books more than they are at the moment. In English, of course, there are fandoms, particularly in certain genres, where people create their own fan pages and have all sorts of opinions and theories and try to predict what's coming in the next book in the series. We don't have anything quite like that yet. Although maybe Tim Armstrong has that sort of following among some of his readers. So anyway, that's what I've been dwelling on this week in among my various other efforts. Have a look at Leavlung. I will certainly be doing a little more than lurking. I'll be going in to participate in the conversations, and I hope that just gets everybody reading more and talking more about books. Agus, gus a féich mí ríisiúh, ha mín dochas go bí fíor jo cheach goin.